Has someone given me paper for to be discussed? Are there any notes in paper, or you want to continue?
Continue class.
Continue, sir.
Okay, then I will start. This week we have nuclear physics. This week we have nuclear physics, new topic. In SCV, nuclear physics is not there.
Nuclear chapters.
After
Nuclear chapter. After semiconductors.
After semiconductors, it is.
Yes, sir. The nucleus.
Okay.
422 sir, page number.
422.
In HCV 422.
Right. The nucleus.
Whole sir.
Yes, complete nucleus this time. Complete chapter. What are the things in this? We can see overview.
15 pages.
Nuclear constituents. Atoms, little about stability, radius, nuclear forces, binding energy, then radioactive decay. Numerical part will start from binding energy and radioactive decay. That is and radioactivity. Beta ray, alpha ray, energy of the nucleus, reactors, nuclear reactors, fusion. All these things will be there for this week only. So let us start from the beginning. Let me see if I have some notes, I think, based on this that I had already. If I can see those, then I will start from those notes. Modern physics. Yes, notes are also there.
Sir, send it in WhatsApp.
I'll send. These are past year China batch notes. Let me see if it is covering everything or isotopes, isobars, isotones, nuclear radii, binding energy, and then uncertainty principle, spin of electron. Okay, I will share these with you. Bit of model, these are good only. Radioactivity, alpha decay, right? I think not complete. After that, I have to. Okay, no problem. I will do one thing. I will not take from here. This because I can share otherwise also. But it will be good for you to read from here, right? And other than that, H.C. Verma read from HCV. This is theory-based topic, no? Somewhat theory is also there in this, other than numericals. So for theory, I recommend to read from H.C. Verma and from NCERT. That you should do. Problems already I have given you, so I think I can start myself here. Right. So one formula for the nucleus radius of the nucleus. Radius of the nucleus is equal to R naught into A raised to power 1 by 3. I discussed, I think, before also. A is the mass number here. This formula we are getting by assumption. One assumption is there when we are using this formula, that the density of nucleus remains constant. It is based on that assumption. The density of the nucleus will remain constant. Based on that, we can say radius will be varying because if more the mass will be there, more mass means density constant, more mass means more volume, and therefore I can say that mass number will be proportional to volume or will be proportional to R cube. So therefore A raised to power 1 by 3 will be proportional to R radius. Therefore we can say in general radius will become equal to R naught into A raised to power 1 by 3. Is it okay? Radius of the nucleus.
Yes, sir.
आपकी मम्मा से नहीं मेरी मम्मा से
Radius of the nucleus we can say
मम्मा की पापा मुझे मेरी मम्मा से बात करनी है
radius of the nucleus we are getting from here, and then next we can say isobars, isotopes, isotones, isobars, isotopes, isotones. Isobars are the having same mass number, same number of nucleons. We can say number of nucleons are same, having same number of. Let's say I am writing in this way. Here I will be writing same, and here I will be writing nucleons, and here I will be writing atomic number. Carbon, for example, carbon has isotope, so it has same atomic number, or we can say same number of protons.
Protons.
Protons we can say same. Atomic number will automatically become same if protons are same. Isotones. Isotones is neutrons. Same number of neutrons. So these three things we know, and then what happens in nucleus? Several small, little bit I will discuss about nuclear forces. Nuclear forces are very short range. Very short range means they cannot exist up to infinity. And these are non-conservative also. Number one, short range. Number two, non-conservative. These are not central, means the force between two nucleus may not be along the line joining their centers. So two nucleons, one proton and one neutron, may not apply force on each other. First of all, this is attractive force. Attractive means this will be towards each other, but this may not be along the line joining. This may be in some other directions also. That is also possible. Number three. Number three we have short range non-conservative. One more we have that is
Not central.
Independent of charge, sir.
non-central comes here only. If it is non-central, it will be automatically non-conservative. We can say attractive.
Independent of charge, sir.
Yes, that is very important. Independent of charge. Means force between proton and proton, and force between neutron and neutron, or force between proton and proton will be all equal forces. This will not be different. All this will be equal.
It is always attractive, sir.
These are yes, we can say attractive up to certain distance, and then it will become repulsive. These are something like this, I should say. Attractive up to, I don't know exactly what distance we should say, but I think of the order of nucleus size. Let us say maybe I don't know what is the exact number. Maybe 10 to the power minus 16 onwards, it will be something attractive only, and when it will become less than 10 to the power minus 16, it will become repulsive. Otherwise, the nucleus will completely collapse. That will also not happen. So we know it is from here to of the order of few numbers into something 10 to the power minus 15 or maybe minus 14, something like that we can say. Okay, and then it will be repulsive also. Because otherwise nucleus will collapse and it will keep on collapsing and it will never end. So yes, it can be repulsive, but repulsive will be if the value is lesser than this minimum. It is not exact number here, 10 to the power minus 16. I'm just giving you a little idea of order. 10 to the power something from minus 10 to the power 16, 10 to the power minus 16 to 10 to the power minus 15, we can say somewhere near that. So this is independent of charge and correct. And much of you already know it is there are two kinds of nuclear forces, by the way. One we call as strong nuclear forces and the other we call as strong nuclear forces, and the other one is weak nuclear forces. The strong ones are because of some particles which we call as mesons. Mesons we call those. I think wait a minute. Yes, I'm adding mesons only. Mesons. And weak nuclear forces are responsible for beta decay. These are responsible for something called as beta decay. Okay, these are let you do that.
Strong mesons,
you
sir.
don't need what mesons are nuclear.
No, sir. Strong
nuclear particles.
due to mesons, sir.
Due to mesons. These are due to these are within the nucleus. We can say if we break the nucleus apart, nuclear particles apart, then there will be some particles appearing like mesons and some quarks, antiquarks. There are several such subnuclear particles. Right.
Inside nucleus, sir.
Within the nucleus. These cannot exist outside. Outside, these will not exist because these are short range. Short range means these are existing for less than 10 to the power minus 14. Of the order of Fermi, less than 10 to the power minus 14 meters. This will not be beyond that. Okay. This will be less value.
Okay, sir.
And if we take several nuclear particles together, if we join them together, for example, let us say I want to make an atom. So, which kind of atom I can make? For example, carbon atom. In carbon atom, how many nucleons will be there? 6 protons. 6 protons will be there. And 6 neutrons will be there, right? So 6 neutrons plus 6 protons, let us say.
89785. 92765.
If I mute yourself. Mass of neutron and mass of proton, we know, let us say it is given to us. isolated neutron and isolated proton has Mn mass and Mp mass. And what will be the total mass of the carbon nucleus? Normally we expect that we are taking 6 neutrons, let us say, and we are taking 6 protons, let us say, and we are forming the atom. It does not mean the total mass of carbon atom will become equal to this. Total mass of nucleus will not come out to be this. But what we observe, when we join them together, mass comes out to be less than. This is of nucleus. Carbon nucleus. It is less than that. Now, why is it less? What is the reason? What is going on? Because of the forces of attraction. We know that if a thing is left on its own, and if there is a force of attraction, then the things will move in the direction of the decrease of potential energy. When for example, if I leave a mass here and this is ground, and I automatically or not, or do I have to make it go downwards? It will automatically go downwards. I will just leave it there. It will automatically go downwards. Why is it automatically going downwards? It is a natural tendency that when the particles are left on their own, then they will go in the direction of decrease of potential energy. Where potential energy decreases, in that direction they will go. So as we are coming from top to bottom, the potential energy is decreasing. So particle left on its own will fall downwards. Same thing like that happens for the nuclear nucleons. When these nucleons are brought very close to each other, first of all, they should be brought very close. If one is here, other is here, they will not even feel each other's forces. If they're far away from each other, they should be brought up to the order of 10 raised to the power minus 14 meters at least, or maybe less than that. Something like this, they should be brought. When they are brought so much close to each other, then they will start feeling the force of attraction. And as a result, they will automatically attract each other and start forming the nucleus if these are brought together. When they form nucleus, now what happens when the particle comes and falls on the earth? What happens? Its potential energy will be lost. But if it is lost, then energy, total energy has to be conserved. So somewhere this energy should go. Where will this energy go? It will go in the form of some heat energy or
Sound.
First of all, it will be kinetic energy, and after that it will be heat energy lost. Okay. Similarly, here also, when the nuclear particles are brought together to form a nucleus, then energy will be released. And that energy released will be reducing the mass of the nucleus. Now it's new because you may have, okay, energy cannot be converted into mass or mass cannot be converted into energy. This is what we thought before. But now I think that equation, famous equation, everybody knows about it. Einstein has already popularized this equation, mc squared, which says that mass can be converted into energy. So mass is convertible into energy, and the energy which will be released in the form of some radiations, that much and mass of the nucleus will be less now. So we can say like this, that 6 into mass of neutron plus 6 into mass of proton is more than the mass of this because some energy will be released. So total will be still conserved. Total energy on the left side will be equal to total energy on the right hand side. But is this energy? If I write in this way, that is not energy. So I have to write it in form of energy, means I have to multiply by c square. Here also I have to multiply by c square. If I multiply mass by c square, then it will convert into energy. Units also will be of energy. And now this is a balanced equation, a perfectly balanced equation. This energy which it is releasing when the nucleons are brought together to form a nucleus, the energy which we get from that, after that, which is released automatically in the form of some radiation, this energy we call as binding energy. I think I discussed binding energy. I don't know why, but someone it came up for discussion before also. I discussed binding energy a little bit.
Okay.
So binding energy, I think I discussed, and I told when the particles are brought together, then energy release is referred to as binding energy. You remember it?
Yes, sir.
Or I also told this way that if I have to, again, let us say this is already nucleus now, and I want to break it apart into nucleons. I want to break it apart into its nucleons. Then I have to provide some energy. I have to give it some energy, and that energy required to be given to again separate these nucleons. That will also be called as binding energy. So what is binding energy? Two ways we can think. One, when we join these together to form a nucleus, then the energy release is equal to binding energy. And the binding energy is also the energy required to be given to the nucleus, which will be able to separate the constituent particles. So both are same only, because the energy is conserved. So whatever energy we are giving, by which we are able to separate the particles, same energy we will get when we are again joining those particles. Is it understood?
The
energy which we give to separate particles, same energy we will get by combining the particles again. Same energy we will get again. Here we are inputting the energy. Here we are getting the energy in the process of recombination. While it is getting recombined, then we are getting the energy back. Binding energy is obtained back. Okay. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Right. So, somewhat other than that, I want to discuss something about the. I want to discuss something about the. If I have these particles here, and I am, wait a second, what I was up to. Yes, one thing, mass of number of neutrons and number of protons. If you observe in every atom, the ratio, if I plot the ratio chart, it goes something like this. Let us say one side we have neutrons, and other side we have number of protons. So number of protons here, let me call it Z, atomic number. When n will be equal to Z, this is the line when n is equal to Z. But we observe that the atoms lie along this side. Means number of neutrons tend to exceed the number of neutrons tend to exceed the number of protons. Reason is, let us say we want to build a nucleus which is consisting only of protons. That will not be stable at all. Why will it not be stable? Because of the
repulsion between protons.
Repulsion between the protons. Because of the force of repulsion between the protons, when it will be becoming less stable as compared to if it has a more number of, we can say, neutrons. So therefore we want to have a this to lie in this direction, in this place. This line which I am drawing here, this is a line for exactly equal, when n is exactly equal to Z. When n is exactly equal to Z. And this line is for n greater than Z. This line is for n is greater than Z. Now we are this theta is 45 degree, by the way, because n is equal to Z. Now can we form the nucleus entirely of just neutrons only? Is it possible?
Yes, sir, but there will not be any electrons also, sir. It will not become a nucleus of atom.
It will not be atom. Then it will not be atom. So this is obviously property of that we should have one proton, then we should have two protons, then only we are getting different atoms, because around one proton, one electron will be circulating. Around two protons, two electrons will be circulating. But entirely just protons will be there, that will not be suitable. So what happens? Neutrons also come. As the size of nucleus becomes bigger and bigger, then the number of neutrons tend to overcome the number of protons. Reason is for the stability. That configuration is more stable, right? Next we have this graph of binding energy is there. Something like this exact. Wait a second. Why don't I see the exact graph only? That will be better because I will not be able to draw it otherwise. This is that graph of ratio of neutrons to protons. So you observe that neutrons are becoming more. Now we have nuclear forces here. These are combined together to form the free nucleons here, right? This is that discussion only which I discussed, no? That binding energy will be equal to total difference of the mass energies. You know this equation? I wrote it in a different way, slightly different way. How I wrote it? I wrote it in this way. I
B
wrote
plus M.
Z into MP. I wrote this way, plus N into Mn into C square.
Yes.
This is the initial energy. When they combine, then energy is mc square. But plus
Minus
energy will be,
B.
plus energy will be released here. That not minus, plus energy will be released. So this total energy will be equal to this energy. This total energy will, this M is the mass of nucleus. So they are writing that equation only, but they are just bringing M on the right hand side. So, and binding energy they are representing by B. It is same equation only which I wrote there. So right. But here after that, after this equation, I have to take you to this equation also. This is in terms of atomic masses. Before we wrote in terms of protons and neutrons mass. So can we write in terms of atomic mass also? Yes, but then we have to be careful. We have to consider even the electrons also into account. Although we may neglect the mass of electron normally, but not in case of nuclear reactions. Reason is, if you observe the energy given by one electron also is enough. How much it is? I told you it is 0.5 mega electron volt nearly. That is energy from one electron. So this energy is very large and we can not neglect it, this energy. So because here mass is entirely converting into energy. So when mass entirely converts into energy, then energy is not less. Energy is much larger only. Because why energy becomes larger? Because m into c squared. Imagine c is already 3 into 10 raised to the power 8 and that too squared. Then this makes it big even if m is small. But overall such a big number is multiplied with it. That overall energy becomes not negligible. That becomes significant only. So we cannot neglect even electrons while we are discussing the nuclear reactions. So we should consider those also into account. For example, he has given one example here, I think so. Let me discuss that only. Hydrogen atom. Not hydrogen. It is, I think, a mass of one hydrogen atom into Z. Okay, right. Plus N into mass of neutrons minus mass of X. Mass of atom. That mass of atom will be this atom will have how many electrons? This atom will have how many electrons? Are those electrons also taken care of or not? Z electrons here. And here how many electrons this will have? It will also have Z electrons only, I think. Then those electrons will cancel each other. Means even if this equation is equivalent to this, because even though there are some electrons here and some electrons here, but those electrons are just cancelling each other. So therefore, effectively, we end up getting the same equation in terms of the atomic mass also as we are getting in terms of nuclear mass. Understood or not? Okay.
Sir,
By taking atom. What?
H11.
H11.
Why it came on sense?
By it?
It came.
Mass of proton.
Why it came? I don't understand. Mass of proton is equivalent to mass of hydrogen atom, but mass of hydrogen atom is slightly more because it has one electron also. 1 H1 is equal to mass of proton plus mass of electron. That is what we can think.
Yes, sir.
Because now we want to write in terms of atomic mass. Therefore, we are adding extra electrons here. But how many electrons we added? We should not get electrons here, but we are getting Z electrons extra. Z electrons extra. Z into Me we are getting extra. But that we are subtracting from here also because finally also we are adding atomic mass. So its effect will get cancelled out then. Its effect will get cancelled out. That is the main idea. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Right. This was the graph which I wanted to say, and I don't remember it. I remember only this part. You should also just focus only on this part only. This part I remember somewhat. Means I know that it goes up to some mega electron volts. It goes. This value is, I think, of the order of something 8 mega electron volts. It goes up to 8 mega electron volts. What is it? B upon A. As you know, B for binding energy and A means mass number. So it is binding energy per nucleon.
It is
And
9.
this side
Sir.
is mass number A. What? It is 9. Let me check once. What is it? Is it mentioned somewhere? It is given 8.7, I think, right? 8.7. Okay, approximately 8.7 mega electron volt. Now, starts from here. See, where is our H2? Isotope of hydrogen only. It is so much below here, and it is, I think, starting from maybe 2 or something. 2.22. Is it that only? 2.22 only. Starting from here, very less, and then goes up to this. In between, lithium suddenly jumps here, and then there are no other atoms in between. Then these, and then reaches here. So this is somewhat. This graph is not just like a proper curve here in the beginning, but after that, it is almost like a curve. You can join these points and it will become a curve only, smooth curve. But before that, there are some fluctuations. It is not connected curve here, like this way. This. So we don't have to remember all this. Just little bit idea we should have, and that is enough. That we are okay. From here, there is a sudden jump. That is enough for us to know. Anyway. And what is the maximum? Okay, if you remember, nearly 8.7. Exactly, we need not remember. That is enough for us. And 1 atomic mass unit is equivalent to what energy? 931 mega electron volt. We should remember this. What is the point of discussion and why we plot this graph? I will give you a reason for that. And it is very important for us to know why we are plotting this graph here. There's a formula also for binding energy per nucleon. Approximate formula it is. Not exact formula, it is approximate formula. And we can justify this, why this formula is there. I will give you the reason for that. So, there are 3 terms. Okay, these terms I will discuss later on. Before discussing these terms, first of all, I want to continue again. So what kind of graph we got? We got something starting from here, then something here this way. This is binding energy per nucleon versus A graph. Goes up to maybe 8.7, and this peak is nearly at iron, I think so.
Iron, sir. Iron.
It is at iron, I think so. Near iron, approximately near iron. So, then these higher atomic numbers, we know they have lesser binding energy comparatively. They have lesser binding energy here. And lower atomic numbers also have lesser binding energy. So if I have a atom, which is some atom here, and let us say it is getting split into 2 parts. Not here, maybe I will take some here. And this is, let us say, something mass number. I'm assuming some mass number, maybe 140. And I'm breaking into 2 parts. What will be each part coming out to be? 70, 70. Somewhere here, right? 70 here. Not necessarily equal parts. I can break into 80 plus 60. Means depends on what kind of reaction is taking place. But I'm assuming that there was one nucleus of 140 mass number, and it split into 2 parts. Each 70, 70 letters. Then after reaching this 70, 70, we know binding energy per nucleon. Binding energy per nucleon for this nucleus will be more here. It will be more. for the daughter nucleus. We call it daughter, and this was this parent nucleus which broke into these two nucleus. We call this as daughter nucleus. Okay. So this daughter nuclei which we are getting, they have overall binding energy. I am saying, not binding energy per nucleon. Overall binding energy of the daughter is more as compared to, I think, overall binding energy of the parent. Is it right or not? What is the binding energy of the parent? Let us consider it to be B2 upon A2. Here it could be B3 upon A3, but I have taken B2 upon A2 only because these are equal. And here it is B1 upon A1. Then I can say B1 upon A1 into 140. And other is B2 upon A2 into 70. And for other also I have taken same only, so plus 70. Which is more? Which energy was more? Overall binding energy. Binding energy initially or binding energy finally? Which is more?
Binding energy finally, sir.
Finally.
Binding energy finally is more. If binding energy finally is more, by the way, here A1 is 140 and here A2 is 70. Yes, you are right. Binding energy finally is more according to the graph, because B2 is more than B1. B1 upon A1 and it is B2 upon A2. If binding energy is more, will the nucleus be more stable or not? Yes, it will be more stable. How? Binding energy represents the energy required to be given to split the nucleons apart. Binding energy is the energy required to be given to split the nucleons apart. So it will be more energy is required to split which nucleus apart? The daughter nucleus apart. We need more energy to separate those as compared to the energy of the parent nucleus. As compared to energy of the parent nucleus, I need to give more energy to separate its constituent particles because its binding energy is more as compared to binding energy of parent. Means higher binding energy somehow tells us about stability. Higher binding energy per nucleon will be giving us more stable nucleus. So which is most stable nucleus? We can say, we can think of iron as a most stable nucleus because of higher binding energy per nucleon. Okay. Are these stable here? These which are having lesser binding energy per nucleon, these are also not stable here. And these will also, but understand one thing. This will not split. This will combine. If I take one hydrogen atom and I combine two hydrogen atom to form a helium, then helium will be somewhere here, I think so. Then I notice that binding energy overall will increase in forming product. If I form a product by taking two hydrogen atom and I form a helium atom, helium nucleus, it is not about atom. This discussion is about nucleus. If I take two hydrogen nucleus and I form a helium nucleus, then I think this binding energy overall will increase in the product as compared to in the this reactants. So binding energy in the reactants will be less than the binding energy formed in the product. Let us call this side as product. This is product here. This is more binding energy. More binding energy means helium will be more stable as compared to this. Or this also tells us that when these two combine, then energy will be released. Energy will be released. And here, when this splits, then also energy will be released. Here, energy is released on splitting. And when energy gets released, then binding energy, then overall the product becomes stable. If energy is released in any nuclear reaction, then the product will be stable. If energy is not released in any nuclear reaction, but energy is required to be given to produce a nuclear reaction, then the product will be unstable as compared to the reactants. So if let us say this converts into these two, and while it converts into these two, energy is released. If that happens, then these final products will be stable product. But on the other hand, if I have to provide energy to split these apart, then the products will be more unstable, and it means the reactant was stable and products are unstable. By releasing energy, the things will be having more stability. Okay. All right. So sometimes they ask such questions. For example, they will give some hypothetical binding energy per nucleon curve. And this is, let us say, nuclear number, and something like this they may give. So here I'm giving some mass number, maybe 30. Here I'm giving something mass number, maybe 50. and here I am giving some mass of 140. So 140, will it convert into 70 plus 70? If it converts into 70, will it release some energy? Will it have tendency to convert into 70 plus 70? No, no need, because it will not have that tendency. Reason is, even after it converts into two nuclei of 70 mass number, then the total binding energy remains in this case same initially, same before. So it does not release any energy. If it does not release any energy, then such nuclear reaction is not no, it's not spontaneous. It will not happen on its own. It should release some energy, then the nuclear reaction will be spontaneous. Spontaneous means this will give us some energy, even though sometimes we may have to initiate, we have to give some initial activation energy in order for the nuclear reaction to take place. We may have to give some initial activation energy. Okay, I will discuss about that also. Here, let us say I have some nucleus of one mass number, let us say 10. So if I take 10 and I join it with 20, will it do anything? Again, not, I think, because same energy only we are getting again. 30 is, let us say, on this, sorry. 10 plus 15, let us say 25, in the same side only, no advantage. But if I have 25 plus 25, what it gives us? Or 25 plus 20, let us say, 25 plus 20, what it gives us? 25 plus 20 gives us somewhere 45. And that has no more binding energy per nucleon. So it has tendency to fuse. 25 has tendency to combine with 20. They have tendency to combine together to form 45. They may have tendency. Or 22 plus 22, this is also possible. So which kind of reaction will be possible? When two combine together, we call it as nuclear fusion. What we call it? Nuclear fusion, we call it. And when they have tendency to split, we call it as nuclear fission. So the higher mass numbers will have tendency to split, and the lower mass numbers will have tendency to join together for our typical binding energy per nucleon curve. But if somebody gives a different binding energy per nucleon curve, let us say somebody gives us this kind of binding energy, hypothetical binding energy per nucleon curve. Hypothetical binding energy per nucleon curve, if somebody is giving like this, then
Higher
understand.
atomic.
Can these higher
Only
atomic
nuclear fission.
join? Can these higher atomic combine? If they combine, then they cannot make a lesser mass number. Can they form a lesser mass number?
No, sir.
No. It means these don't have tendency to combine here. Let us say it is something X and Y. These will not combine, because if they combine, then they have no tendency to form they will not have tendency to form a product which has more binding energy. So they will not have any tendency to combine. But if I make a graph like this, then these may have tendency to combine again. These two may have here this and this may have tendency to combine to give more binding energy per nucleon. As a result, the final product may become stable. Will these have tendency to combine here? If these two combine together, then the final product is of lesser binding energy.
No.
Let us say
No.
it was 15, and it combines with 15, and it is combines with 20. Let us say 15 plus 20, and then it is 20 to 50. Then it will form some product here, and which will be unstable because it has lesser binding energy as compared to the initial binding energy itself. So this will be not possible. Such nuclear reactions which are not on their own possible, we can make them happen by giving some extra energy. So, but those will not be stable, but we call those as endothermic reactions. Endothermic reactions we can make, in which the energy will not be released, but energy will be absorbed. Energy of energies, we can say energy of products is mass energy of products is more than mass energy of reactants. What does it mean? I think I should clarify one thing here more, then you will be understanding better. mass energy is m into c square, and this energy comes out to be equal to z into mn into c square, sorry, mp into c square plus number of neutrons into mn into c square minus binding energy.
Minus
So you
binding.
notice that mass energy rest mass energy, I can say this rest mass energy
I have one doubt, sir.
is less if binding energy is more. Lesser mass energy means more binding energy. More binding energy means more binding energy. Then more binding energy means lesser mass energy. Okay, we can say that. This discussion is valid only when
Sir,
we are forming a yes.
sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yes.
Sir, the one with lesser binding energy will be more stable, sir.
No, opposite.
More binding energy.
More binding energy, more stability.
Yes, sir.
More binding energy means more stability.
This is
Binding
mass energy of
means
product or reactant, sir?
mass energy of
Product soleno, sir. This is mass energy of product.
this is product. This is product, we can say. This is mass energy of nucleus, we can say, nucleus formed. It is not any nuclear reaction, it is just nucleus formed because of by combining these. It is mass energy of the nucleus. But while we are main idea of stability we get from not from binding energy total, but we get main idea of stability from binding energy per nucleon. That gives us main idea of stability. Total binding energy may be sometimes misleading. A reason is, for example, if I compare Fe and this something here, I don't know which mass, which atom it will come out to be. But if I compare this with this, then it will appear that binding energy of iron will be less as compared to binding energy of this. Now, binding energy of this per nucleon is lesser than binding energy of iron per nucleon. So this is less stable as compared to iron. So binding energy per nucleon gives us better idea of stability as compared to total binding energy. That keep in mind. Binding energy per nucleon gives us better idea of stability. Higher binding energy per nucleon, higher stability. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now let me assume some reaction taking place, like A plus B, let us say forming X plus Y. Let us say these two combine to form these. Although nuclear reactions mostly take place like this also. Either something one will split into two parts, X and Y. That may happen. Or sometimes two may join together to form a single final thing. That may also happen. Okay. But sometimes this also happens. I may give a particle. For example, I may have to make some neutron strike some nucleus in order to make some nuclear reaction possible. Anyway, if I have A plus B forming X plus Y, and there could be X plus Y plus Z also. This is also possible, X plus Y plus Z. For the timing, I am assuming this is a reactant, this is a product. Then we say that mass energy difference delta mc square. What is delta mc square here? That will be equal to, if this mass becomes less, we know that total number of, okay, let me write few points here. I think first you should know this. Total nucleons will remain constant in any nuclear reaction. Total number of nucleons will remain, total number of nucleons will remain constant in any nuclear reaction. Any nuclear reaction. What other things will be valid for nuclear reactions? Total number of nucleons will remain constant. This is one thing. Any other thing? Conservation of linear momentum, conservation of angular momentum, conservation of total energy, not just mass energy. Means energy means it includes including mass energy. I should say total energy means not only kinetic energy, including mass energy. That total energy will be conserved. Angular momentum will be conserved, linear momentum will be conserved, and number of nucleons will be conserved. And conservation of charge. Conservation of charge. These all will be valid for nuclear reactions. Charge will be conserved. Okay. Nucleons will also be conserved. Charge will be conserved. Protons will be momentum will be conserved. Angular momentum will be conserved, and energy will be conserved, including mass energy. So let us say I have a reaction now taking place in which A plus B converts into X plus Y. What? Okay. If you want to give a heading on it, then you can give one heading. Conservation principles during nuclear reactions. Which conservation principles can be applied during nuclear reactions? Conservation principles during nuclear reaction. And one more thing we can write somewhere: energy, mass energy of nucleus plus binding energy, mass energy of nucleus, let us call mass energy ME plus binding energy BE is equal to mass energy of nucleons is equal to mass energy of nucleons. Is it okay? Mass energy of nucleus plus binding energy is equal to mass energy of the constituent particles, the nucleons. Is it understood?
Sir, once can you say what is COL there, sir?
Angular momentum.
Okay, sir.
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 Sir. Sir.
Sir.
Yes, I think I lost connection. Let me join again. Wait a second. I will join. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is one equation we are having here. Do you agree with this equation or not? If you don't understand this equation, how we get this? Just think in this way. What does it mean? It means Z of A plus Z of B into MP, mass of proton, into C square plus N of A plus N of B into Mn into C square. Is it right or not? Does it mean this or not?
Yes, sir.
Because if I take Ma and I join with binding energy of A, then what it will give us? Mass of nucleus plus binding energy will separate the constituent particles. Means it will give us energy equal to the rest mass energy of Za into MPC square plus Na into MNC square. That it will give us. Similarly for MB and binding energy of E, when these combine together, what they will give us? Same thing only. So similarly from here also, Zx plus Zy into MPC square plus Nx plus Ny into MNC square. But we know one thing, that Zx plus Zy will be equal to Za plus Zb, conservation of charge. And Na plus Nb will be equal to Nx plus Ny because of conservation of nucleons. Total nucleons will also remain same. Right or not?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, this left hand side and the right hand side are equal. Therefore, I can say that product is mx plus my into c square minus ma plus mb into c square. In this equation, understand, I'm not writing multiplied by c square, but it's the same thing actually, because when we are adding with energy, then it means it has already units of energy. So this mass is representing here. This mass is representing energy only, this mass and this mass. Okay. So you think as if it is energy only. And if you want, you can multiply by c square also. C square, C square, C square and C square. But even if we don't multiply, we should understand that this is just like, we can say the units are changed, units are different, but it is representing energy only. Because I can think this way also. Let us say I have mc square unit of energy. I can say it is equivalent to m unit of energy in some other system of units. If it is m into c square in SI system of units, I can say it is m units also in some other system of units, because it is just a constant factor which is getting multiplied. And if I divide by that constant factor, then I will just get a different units, I can say. So no problem, we can write in this way also. We can write without multiplying by c square also. Anyway, mx plus my into c square minus ma plus mb into c square, what it will give us in our equation, if I observe, it will give us binding energy of A plus binding energy of B minus binding energy of X plus binding energy of Y or I can say mass of net mass of product into minus mass of reactant into C square is equal to, here it is opposite, minus of binding energy of product minus binding energy of reactant into C square. Minus is coming here. So I can say delta MC square is equal to minus of delta binding energy into C square. Important thing, we can remember it. Something
Sir, in
important.
second equation, you didn't write binding energy values.
In which equation I did not write binding energy?
Second equation.
In second equation, I told that this is equal to this and this is equal to this. That's why I make it
Downs.
downward.
Next equation.
I really don't know what is, if I have written binding energy here, what is the problem here?
Correct only, sir. Correct only.
Correct only, sir.
This binding energy you are not able to see, or what? This, can you not see this side?
No, I can. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm
I'm writing it. I'm writing it down.
Sir, we will not get into C square now, sir.
But into C square?
In the second equation,
Oh,
sir.
okay, okay. Sorry. Last, this was mistake. Oh my God, what am I doing here? Why am I multiplying that? Yes, sorry. Yes, minus of, because it is already energy and it is not like mass is getting converted into energy. Yes, right. I should have just written this only. So that is our one formula. So what we call this thing as? This thing we call as mass. Mass defect means, I think, initial minus final. Mass defect is not this. Mass defect we call as negative of it. Mass defect is also something which we define. Mass defect means mass decreased. So mass decrease will be actually equal to minus of change in mass, minus of delta M. That is called as mass defect. That is called as mass defect. So mass defect is also equal to change in binding energy. So mass defect is not final minus initial mass. Mass defect means initial minus final. Understood?
Yes,
So
sir.
therefore I am writing it as, in some books you will find it to be written like delta M into C square. But where they are writing delta M into C square, you understand they are just thinking like magnitude wise. But actually it is initial minus final. That is mass defect. Okay. So mass defect is equal to change in binding energy. And one more thing here. I know one more thing, conservation of energy, that I have not even used. Have I used conservation of energy till now? I think this is also like conservation of energy although, but for the reaction also I want to use conservation of energy. For the reaction also I want to use. So mass of A plus mass of B plus kinetic energy of A. Mass of A plus mass of B. Energy equation I want to write now. Energy equation is like this. Mass of A, mass energy of A plus kinetic energy of A. That is the total energy of A. Plus mass energy of B plus kinetic energy of B is equal to mass energy of X plus kinetic energy of X plus mass energy of Y plus kinetic energy of Y plus sometimes there may be some radiations getting emitted. I am assuming if no radiations are getting emitted then. Otherwise, if radiations are also there, then plus radiation energy also I have to add in this. Then I can say some radiations are, sometimes radiations may be incident here or sometimes radiations may be released here. Some radiations. Then I have to take those radiation energy also. If no radiation is there, for that, or if radiation energy is negligible. If radiation energy is negligible. What do you mean by radiation? Radiation means, do you know about gamma rays? I think I do not know because I have not discussed. In chemistry, do you do that much? Gamma rays, etc.?
No.
Gamma rays you have not heard of? You have not done anything in chemistry, I think, this time, right?
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Not done, sir.
Not done.
Nuclear chemistry not done.
Atomic physics you did already or not in chemistry?
Yes, sir.
That
Atomic
you did.
physics.
No problem. Then I will tell you what is gamma ray also. Physics teacher used to have this advantage actually every year. So therefore I am telling in such a, I was thinking you may be knowing this thing already. Okay, no problem. I will discuss here. I will explain everything. So some radiation is also released sometimes. And if radiation energy is not released or it is released, it is negligible, let us say. In that case, I can say that mass defect will become what? Mass defect means initial minus final. That will become And while, see here, I am adding with energy, means you understand that C square is there. Whether I write it or not, that is already there. C square is there. Otherwise, how can I add mass with energy? That C square is there. Okay. So MA plus MB minus MX plus MY, that is mass effect. Del minus delta M into C square, that is mass effect. That is equal to what? That will come out to be equal to, I think, delta K. Kx plus Ky minus K. Delta K, I think, right? Yes. Right only, I think so.
Yes, sir.
Minus delta MC square is equal to delta K. Correct. Next we have so what relation we got now? Let us write all these in one place. Delta M into C square is equal to delta B. It is exact relation, and this is approximate relation, because in this I am neglecting the radiation energy. Radiation energy. Or some other rays also may be there. If some radiations are released, these are like electromagnetic waves only. Gamma rays are also like electromagnetic waves. If I want to say it quickly without telling in detail, which I will be telling later on, then quickly I can say like this, that as we have energy levels in atoms, and some transition will take place from high energy level to low energy level, and some rays will be emitted. Same kind of energy levels we are having within the nucleus also. So energy levels don't only exist for electrons; those exist for within the for the nucleons also. So when a nucleon, means a proton or a neutron, when they jump from higher energy level to lower energy level, they also emit radiations. But those radiations emitted are not of the order of electron volts. For example, in hydrogen atom, we were discussing 13.6 electron volt, etc. Those are all of the order of electron volts, or maybe few up. They go up to kilo electron volts, but not beyond that. They go up to kilo electron volts. But here we start with mega electron volts. This nucleus contains really large amount of energy, and the energy by the transitions from higher excited state to lower excited state, or excited state to the ground state. Excited state of whom? Whose excited state? Whose excited state? Excited state of nucleus. Nucleus also has excited state. That also has a ground state. So when the transition takes place from excited state to the ground state in the nucleus, then the corresponding radiation release is we can say radiation energy. That is that will be in the form of electromagnetic wave, and those photons will be called as gamma photons. So gamma rays are having more energy than X-rays, which are more than ultraviolet, which are more than visual, which are more than infrared. Something we should know this where gamma rays will be, right? So gamma rays have more energy than this, and more than gamma rays are cosmic rays. Those are having more than gamma rays also. Okay. Those cosmic rays are produced in different, some maybe supernova explosions or some other places. Some suddenly large amount of energy is released. Those energies are much stronger than gamma rays also. Anyway, so this is okay. Now, nuclear reactions equation, that I will prefer to tell something from HCV. This equation also you know already, that we can write this equation rather than in terms of atoms, rather than in terms of protons and neutrons, we can write in terms of atoms also, in terms of atoms. This thing I will come to it. I will come to it. I will explain this equation also. Although if you read it here, you will understand, but I will explain it, you will understand. Okay, let me explain it, and then I will move to the next thing. See what is happening here. There are one term, sorry. Yes, I'm not able to write. Okay, you read it for some time. My pen needs charging, I think. So for that time, let us read normally. First term, A1. This is just, we can say, total intrinsic energy, or we can say energy due to the total number of nucleons which are joined together. If more number of nucleons will join, then we expect more energy to be released. So therefore, more energy release will be proportional to this number of nucleons joining. So therefore, see here, observe. Now I cannot show you. No, I cannot use pen. Wait a second. Or you read yourself only. After that, I will explain. You read it for some time. Start from this in left hand side, the behavior of binding energy per nucleon. Start from where? Start from where? Understood? Somewhat. Okay. Don't worry, I can write. So start from here. The behavior of binding energy. You can read it later on. You read it yourself. Let me explain quickly. What is happening in every nucleus? Let us say one nucleus, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are saying each nucleon has 12 neighboring nucleons touching it. How many can touch? 12 can touch one nucleon. If one nucleon is touched by 12 neighboring nucleons, then how many pairs will be formed total? 6 pairs are formed. 6 A pairs will be there total overall, right? So energy will be proportional to for every pair there will be some energy released. So energy release will be proportional to the pairs formed, and pairs will be proportional to the mass number. So more the mass number, more pairs will be formed, more energy will be released. So therefore the volume energy, we call it as volume energy. The volume energy is proportional to the mass number A. So BV is equal to A1 into A. We understand. But we know that there will be some nucleons which are at the surface. They will not be able to get surrounded from the outside. If they are not able to get surrounded from outside, this is outer, this is already outermost. This is not surrounded from outside. So they will have little lesser energy as compared to the ones which are inside. Because the ones which are inside, they are having energy from all directions. But the ones which are outside, they are not having, attracted from all sides. So they have little comparatively, they will release lesser energy. They will release comparatively lesser energy when the nucleons will join together. So one nucleon which was surrounded from all sides, this nucleon will release more energy as compared to one nucleon which is just on the surface. The nucleon at the surface will release lesser energy on combining with the other nucleus as compared to the nucleons which are inside. They will release more energy. Which will release more energy? The nucleons which are inside, they will release more energy. And the nucleons at the surface, they will release less energy. If I release energy, then energy will be reduced or it will become more if we release energy.
Reduce.
If we release energy, then energy will be reduced. So for whom the energy will be reduced more? The ones which are inside, for them the energy will be reduced more. You understand that? Yes, and their energy will become less as compared to the ones which are on the surface. So, and we know already in liquid also we know that the surface has more energy as compared to inside. Something like that only is happening here. Surface has more energy as compared to inside. But now we are talking about energy getting this. We are not energy which it contains, which it retains. We are only considering the energy which is getting released. So which will release more energy? The energy released by the ones which are inside, they will release more energy as compared to the energy which is getting released because of the surrounding ones. So this, these red ones will release more energy as compared to as compared to these brown ones. Red ones will release more energy. So therefore, the binding energy contribution will be more coming from the volume, and that will be proportional to, as we know already, that is proportional to A. But outer ones are not contributing in that. I have taken extra contribution into account. So I have to subtract the contribution of outer one. They will release energy, but they will release later lesser amount. So therefore, I have to subtract something from that. How much I have to subtract? I have to subtract depending upon what is the area at the surface. That will be proportional to surface area. So the subtraction we are doing, that is proportional to surface area. See here, surface energy we are subtracting. B small bs means binding energy due to the surface. That is less contribution as compared to the binding energy due to the volume. So we are subtracting the contribution at the surface little bit. How much? It is proportional to the radius square. If it is proportional to radius square, then how it will be related to, how will it be related to A? You can understand. Okay, you understand it or not?
Yes, sir.
It is proportional to radius square. So definitely it will be becoming this. because R is having this formula, R is equal to R naught into A raised to power 1 by 3. So BS will be proportional to R square. So it will become, BS will become A2 into A capital A raised to power 2 by 3. Why minus? Because it has lesser contribution as compared to the total binding energy. So it will be, it has to be subtracted. But we have, again, we have lesser contribution because of Coulomb's force of attraction also. Why we have lesser contribution? Because of that. We know energy release is more if there is more stronger force of nuclear attraction. So force of nuclear attraction is more, no problem in that. But the problem is when there are positive charges, those positive charges will repel each other against each other. And if they repel, then somehow they will reduce the effective force. If they reduce the effective force, then they will end up reducing the effective energy to be released. So how much reduction they will cause? So how many such pairs will be formed if Z is the atomic number? I think we know formula NC2. NC2 pairs will be formed. So if Z atomic number is there, ZC2 pair will be formed. Then it will be Z into Z minus 1 upon 2. So according to the number of pairs formed, that much energy will be reduced. Okay. So for that, we are writing this thing then. It is proportional to Z into Z minus 1. And also it is inversely proportional to R. Wait a second. What is the formula for Coulomb force of attraction? K Q1 Q2 by R square. So R is on an average the distance. That will depend on radius only, I think so. So I think I should be getting A raised to power 2 by 3. No, why I'm not getting, wait a second, what they are doing here. Okay, energy, sorry, not force. And
Potential energy.
energy means K Q1 Q2 by R. I was thinking, understood. Energy means K Q1 Q2 by R. It will be inversely proportional to R. Therefore, they are just dividing by A raised to power 1 by 3. They are dividing by A raised to power 1 by 3. Then overall term, we get 3 terms in this. And it is also approximate formula. It is not exact formula. It is approximate formula, but it is very close to reality. Okay, means experimental results which we obtain, those are very much close to this. Okay.
Sir, if Coulombic force are more than energy
Yeah.
released is more, sir.
What if the force of attraction is more than energy release will be more? Obviously. Yes, if the force of attraction is more, energy release will be more. Means see, the force of attraction more means stronger force of attraction means more stable product. More stable product means more energy has to be released in order to form more stable product.
Yes, sir.
All these things are related to each other. Okay. So I think you have understood this binding energy part. One thing, see, he's also mentioning S.C. Verma does not leave anything. He mentions everything. See, he has mentioned at last. There are other effects such that due to the Pauli exclusion principle, we should be included in this to make it more accurate. Obviously, it is not 100% accurate, but it is close. So for us, this much is enough. At your level, this much is enough. Okay. Those will also play some role. What role though those will play? Let me explain here. I think he might have explained himself only. Nuclear radius, no, here not. Nuclear spin. Let me see if here he has explained something. The products, the protons and the neutrons inside the nucleus move in well-defined quantum states. And have orbital angular momenta. The way electrons move around the nucleus and they have well-defined angular momentum, and we have formula MBR is equal to NH upon 2 pi. Something like that is applicable for nucleus also. They have also some quantum states, and they have some orbital angular momentum, and other than orbital angular momentum, they have also spin angular momentum. They have spin angular momentum, internal spin angular momentum, and the spin angular momentum is 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2. What does it mean? You have to study quantum physics to be able to understand that, but you just understand it has plus 1 by 2 or minus 1 by 2. Spin is also possible. Okay. Total angular momentum of the nucleus is the resultant of all the spin and orbital angular momenta of the individual nucleons. The total angular momentum of the nucleus is called the nuclear spin of that nucleus. So total angular momentum, which includes the orbital as well as the resultant of, yes, that we call as the nuclear spin of the nucleus. So they are not talking about anything here, but I have read it somewhere that the nucleus tends to be more stable if it has certain I think here they may have explained here. Nuclear force independent of charge. Nuclear forces are these. Short range, not explained again. Not a central force, not a central force. Not explained. Yes, here one more thing is coming here. Because of Pauli's exclusion principle, each quantum state can contain at most 2 protons with opposite spins and 2 neutrons again with opposite spins. This I wanted to see this one here. Yes, here he has given it. The nuclear forces favoring pairs of 2 protons and 2 neutrons together. Okay.
What is meant by that, sir?
Stability is achieved by having more neutrons and protons. Okay, that's done already in this. The nuclear forces favoring pairing of 2 protons and 2 neutrons together means there are some quantum states. The way we feel for the electrons, no? You remember this kind of, you may have you may draw something like this in chemistry, going up spin, down spin, different states are there. Up and down, we will keep on putting these like this. Okay, we will keep on putting these. So this is means one by one we put, and here one more thing was there which I could not see here, but I will find here out somewhere and then I will tell you. I think when there are parallel spins, then I think forces become stronger as compared to when there are anti-parallel spins. I have learned something like that somewhere, but I don't remember exactly now. And because these things I cannot prove, I have to remember only, as these are based on quantum physics. So I'm not able to prove. So, and right now I don't remember also. But there are, yes, means I think parallel ones are more stable as compared to anti-parallel ones. And the way we have in case of atoms, when atomic number is 2 and atomic number is 8, and when atomic number is, what is for hydrogen, helium, argon has, I think 18. These are stable comparatively, right? These are very stable. Similarly, there are certain number of nucleons for which are very stable. Means atom numbers with certain number of nucleons are very much stable having very much stable nuclei as compared
Magic
to
numbers.
other nucleus. Those we call as magic numbers. So those magic numbers are something I don't remember right now, but if we search in internet, we will get it easily. We call those magic numbers. So why we call those magic numbers? Because in the beginning, when they found it, they were not able to give the reason behind that and why it happens, why magically these are more stable as compared to others. Although now we know, because these also have Pauli's exclusion principle that holds for them also. And when all the states, energy states will be filled up completely in a given configuration, then that will become more stable. But how that happens exactly, that much in detail, I also don't know. So no problem. Otherwise also is not required for yours. Means it is a little bit out of syllabus, but somewhat we can remember, that is good for us if we know. Next we have radioactive decay. I think it starts.
Sir, time's up.
Take one question that did not. Time is already up.
Sir, in previous page, D points.
Wait a second. I wanted to discuss something here about nuclear reaction, and that I could not see. I don't know where it is now. Reaction. Nuclear. I think here I will be getting. No, here also it is not there. Yes, here maybe. Fusion. Where is fission? Yes, this one it is. Here it is. This I wanted to tell you. These are, see, the value of Q value. This I wanted to explain here, because I explained this delta B, delta MEM, and that Q value also I should tell what is Q value. This thing I wanted to tell you. This thing right here. And this thing right here. For one type and for other type of nuclear reaction. In general, we have this formula. Kinetic energy available to the product, right? Rest mass energy. They are representing rest mass energy by U, and I was representing it by mass only. So the Q value is what? Here you can see UI is the rest mass energy of the initial constituents, and UF is the rest mass energy of the final products. And they are saying Q is equal to Mi minus F, means it is nothing but mass defect. We can say Q value is equal to mass defect. Q value is equal to mass defect. Okay. And here I wanted to explain this thing also. If you are there with me, then you listen once. This we are writing in terms of atom. Notice here one thing. This term you notice here, 2Me, and there is no such term appearing here. Notice it. Why this 2Me appears here, I will explain. Okay, maybe I will explain tomorrow, because I have to start tomorrow. I will start this alpha decay, beta decay, and then I will explain these things, what happens here. By that time, if you want to do something, you just read the theory from HCV. I will recommend you to just read theory only today and do nothing else. And that notes which I am having, that also I will be sending you in the, and don't do any single, don't start doing assignment today. Today you cannot do. Tomorrow you can start doing assignments. Today you just read theory. Theory is also so much vast in this. So even if you devote total time for theory, that also will be very good enough. So I'm ending it now. Is it okay? Tomorrow I will finish the remaining. Okay.